welcome to episode 11 of season 2 of the Jumping the Rail podcast, coming to you live from Champaign, Illinois. This is Mark Redmond, and as usual, I'm joined by my tag team partner, the Italian stallion, Gary Vasalio. Gary, it seems like every episode there's something wrong with you, some form of passion. Every time I call you, see if you're ready, you're like, oh, I'm fine, but I've got cirrhosis, or I got bum knee or something. What is it today?
I have a infected eardrum. So
that is not funny.
No, it went from eustachian tubes to the eardrum, and it's good times.
Now, see, I always thought the eustachian tubes was part of the female reproductive system, so I learn something new every day.
That's fallopian tubes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I always get my tubes mixed up in the human body there. Well, we're glad you were able to power through and help us out today, Gary, and we got quite a bit to talk about. Anybody on our Facebook page saw our favorite grumpy old fart is back in the saddle, and if there's at least a silver lining, and he says, and you got to take what Vince says with a grain of salt, that everything's going to be business as usual, and he's not going to have anything to do with creative or the day to day. Just I mean, that'll stay. But no, it sounds like his primary focus is a sale, from what I've been hearing. He's there to facilitate the sale of the company to the highest bidder, which I don't know about you, Gary. If you would have told me even 5 years ago that Vince would be selling, I probably would have said you were nuts, because I thought that'd be the kind of thing he'd go down with the ship. You know what I mean?
I've been thinking about this, and there's two things, and one of them is either he wasn't going to sell, and then he got kicked out of his own company, and now he's going to sell it before they can do it again, or Stephanie and Triple H knew he was going to try to sell it and didn't understand why he would want to sell it to somebody, because they would lose control of their own company. And so they tried to get him out, and they did. But then he pulled the old, you can't do anything without me because I have the voting shares, which was about as spiteful as you could possibly get as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get back in, because the board's like, we don't want you back. The stockholders don't want you back. Nobody wants you back. The ratings are up. Money's coming in heavier. You did nothing for this company these last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, oh, I want to be back. And so then he threatened basically like having no TV. Yeah, he was going to sink the company because he wouldn't okay any kind of TV deal. But I think now he may be pushing more for a sale, because they still have billions of dollars from it, or hundreds of millions, that he can spend on another football franchise or more hush money or whatever it needs at the time.
If you get $1 billion, imagine how many NDAs I could cover.
Yeah, at least probably 3.
Gary, I just came across something. I don't know if you saw this on Facebook. There's somebody leaked a press release from Stephanie. And this came across about a half hour ago on Facebook from Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Apparently, Stephanie is stepping down as co-CEO, even into Nick Khan to run things. Let me read this verbatim so I don't get misquoted or anything. But this is from Stephanie McMahon's social media. Dear WWE employees, about 8 months ago, I took a leave of absence, and within a few weeks, unexpectedly had the opportunity of a lifetime. I had the privilege to return as the co-CEO and chairwoman of the board in WWE. Cannot put into words how proud I am, yada, yada, yada. Our founder, Vince McMahon, has returned as executive chair and is leading an exciting process regarding strategic alternatives. I am confident. And with Nick's leadership and Paul Triple H Quebec as chief content officer, I'm confident WWE is in the perfect place to continue to provide unparalleled creative content and drive maximum value for shareholders. So that's what just came across the wire a few minutes ago. So
Yeah, I'm not so sure that wasn't a forced move. I think Vince is smart enough to realize that he was pushed out by those people, and Stephanie just kind of had to leave. So it was a bold gambit. They played it as well as they possibly could have, and
yeah, it worked for a bit.
Any normal human being would have just got the hint. Step aside. He's not a normal human being, nor is he a bright human being all the time. So
even the most brilliant Bond villains made that one mistake.
Yeah, I mean, if he sells
the Bond and tell them exactly what their plan is to destroy the world, and then not kill him, you know.
Yeah, I don't understand wanting to sell the company because it's still very profitable. He made like, I think they made like $5.8 billion between the two TV deals over 5 years.
Oh yeah,
and it's more profitable now. So I don't get selling. I guess you're going to make a chunk of money, and since he's old, but he's also has hundreds of millions of dollars. So how much money do you need?
Well, it's like you said, there's more NDAs to be done, you know. And
yeah, I think he's just doing this out of spite at this point, and I don't doubt that because he's just full of spite. He's always been full of spite.
He always has been. Not the most likable guy in the world, I guess. But so yeah, it's they made a list of like the potential buyers if there was a sale going on. Amazon, Comcast, Disney, you know, the usual multimedia suspects as it was. If you had a pick out of all, no, you don't have a stake in the game. We're not shareholders or anything. But as far as keeping the product going and not changing too much, who would you picture to get getting the deal done and taken over?
As a wrestling fan and somebody who wants to see the WWE continue, if it goes to a streaming platform, it will die because people won't buy that platform just to see it. Some people, it doesn't. It's one of the last few bastions of money on TV. You have live sports and wrestling and like news programs. So it's the only place it can really make money and add revenue because when you look at all the streaming platforms, they get these shows that do well. And then they just cancel them anyway because they're not quite doing well enough. And I guess if you're going to pay billions of dollars for a wrestling organization, you're probably going to give it a little while. But we just saw Warner Brothers can a Batwoman movie or Batgirl movie that was done, that had Michael Keaton come back as Batman, and they canned it so they could save money on taxes. It'll never see the light of day, and that cost them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So
that's chump change for them, though.
Yeah. So I would much rather see it stay on Comcast, like stay on USA Network. If it doesn't, I can see AEW's viewership go way up. It will act as if it's the only thing going. I don't get on Peacock. I have Peacock, and there are times I completely forget WWE pay-per-views and the network's even on it. Because, well, for one, I can't ever get it to like stay not loading. So it's always constantly wanting to load, and it's buffering, and no matter what I do, everything else in my house will be running fine on Wi-Fi except for Peacock. So if they're wanting to move it to Peacock, it's going to be like that for Raw too. And I don't get to record it. And Peacock's got that stupid thing where you can't just rewind in the middle of the show.
Yeah, that bugs me too.
It bugs me. Like, I don't watch wrestling or sports anymore without being able to fast forward. I don't like baseball. I'll fast forward like when people are trying to get picked off. I can't do it. So like, and I love baseball and I love professional wrestling, but I will fast forward through a lot of matches because it's that spot into that spot into that spot. I know this. I'll wait until I see something I like. I'll stop but it's harder to do. It's slightly harder to do on streaming, and that is enough for most people to not care about it. Out of sight, out of mind. And if you don't have Peacock, or if you don't have Disney or whatever it is, like
Prime or whatever.
I don't have Disney, and I love the Marvel stuff. And I wanted to see Loki, and I eventually did. But there's a lot of stuff I've missed because I'm just not going to buy another streaming service. I can't afford it. I have Hulu because I watch Letterkenny, and I liked a lot of the stuff on Hulu, and it's pretty cheap. And I still have the commercials. And I have Spotify for like $9 a month.
Yeah.
Like, there's not all. The whole streaming thing has gotten dumb. It originally was started out being an alternative where you could save money, and now you're spending more money. If you have all the streaming services, it's probably more than if you had a package on Dish Network.
Yeah, I don't have all of the wrestling streaming services. I've got Peacock. I had Peacock before WWE was on there, just because I would go back and watch like The Office and Parks and Rec, stuff like that. And I signed up for Honor Club after Tony made the announcement that they're going to be putting their show on there. Plus, they have the old shows on there, so I can watch all the old ROH that I loved from 10 years ago. And then I've got New Japan World, and that's about all I really use for wrestling is watching those three. And then my wife's got Hulu, so like in this case, I wasn't able to watch Raw last night, so I just went on Hulu today, and they had about it condensed to about an hour and a half, hour 45, cut out some of the filler and had the high spots on there, so I was able to catch up on that. Like they had the tag team turmoil, Alexa's segment, and KO's match, and that was about it. So, and that works out fine for me. And then Dynamite, they don't have streaming. They're on on Hulu. If you do that fancy sports package, it costs an arm and a leg. But other than that, they're not on any other. They're on the TNT app, I guess, or the TBS app. But like they don't have the streaming service like the scale of a Peacock or Amazon Prime. So,
but to me, that kind of still makes it like destination television.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's right now it's more impressive because I remember when even 10 or 15 years ago, shows that weren't getting 1 million viewers were just canceled.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you didn't get 1 million viewers for the night? Oh, yeah. Well, now 1 million viewers is a huge number. And so you're only a few things that are getting those. And so I think it will be good, very good news for AEW if WWE moves to streaming. Because then there will be no competition on actual TV. And so if you want to watch wrestling, it'll be AEW. And then you can stream WWE, but I think their numbers will fall. I think their attendance will fall. I think there's still enough old school in it. Because I think that's why football and baseball and basketball, all of them still have terrestrial roots. They know that some people get the NFL package, but people want to watch it on CBS. They want to watch it on ABC. They want to watch it on ESPN. They want that, turning the channel to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. If it's anybody, I'm hoping it's Comcast because USA won't let that go. That's free content for them. Well, not free, but it's 3 nights of prime time. They don't have to put a lot of money into new projects or anything. So that would help them. Then you never know, they could bring back Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC for specials. They could, like I said, they'll have all the. I still watch all the old stuff on Peacock, like the old pay-per-views and everything like that, and the old ECW, all those old shows that we couldn't get before. I mean, that's still very valuable to me on Peacock.
The craziest thing is, so like, let's say they sell it to Comcast, and Triple H is still booking, and they're still doing all right, and Nick Khan is still. But if anything shakes down at all, and the ratings start to drop, or there's a storyline that the network doesn't like, it's not going to be, oh, well, Vince has voting control, or you have voting control. No, that's not going to be there anymore. They'll just fire them and hire their own people, and then it will be another WCW.
I was about to say that. That's the thing. When Time
they'll
Warner,
they'll Ted Turner the crap out of it.
It wasn't even Ted Turner. It was Time Warner. They just put non-wrestling people in charge, and then at the end, they didn't give two shits about pro wrestling to begin with. So as soon as Ted kind of checked out on it, they was like, "Oh, we can just get rid of it." And then they sold
it will. Because as soon as they, or like Triple H is like, "Hey, I want to hire this guy." No, we don't have that in the budget. Or we're going to fire this guy. Well, why are you firing him? His split rating isn't that great compared to this person.
Have juice.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't have the look we want, and they'll be able to do that because they'll own it. And
that's why part of me was hoping that The Rock would buy it, but I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think he has enough.
No, he'd have to get some partners.
Oh, he'd have to get partners. I mean, it wouldn't. Let his mom run it. There you go. She's ran a promotion. She's got the Maivia blood in her.
Yeah. Well, it was his grandmother that ran Hawaii.
Yeah.
It was Ata's his mother, and then I forget what High Chief's widow's name is. But they got that in their legacy to be promoters. So
I mean, he bought the XFL, so he's got people that will drop money, but he would have to find a home on television for it. I think it'd be hilarious if him and Tony Khan went out and you just have everything.
I'm pretty sure that if there's one person Vince would not sell to, it would be the Khan family. I don't think he'd give them the satisfaction.
No, but I do think that anybody who just jumped ship back to WWE because they were all excited, they're having a real bad day. They've been having a real bad week. I can almost tell you that they're like, oh crap, because they all got fired because of Vince.
Regal, perhaps.
Maybe Regal and Mia Yim and
all those
Anderson and Gallo,
right.
Gargano, all the smaller dudes.
So hopefully, and I know this is again pipe dream. Hopefully Vince stays true to his word and lets Triple H and Khan kind of run things, and he stays out of the way, just focuses on the sale. But as long as the TV's good, And you were talking about how 1 million viewers is a lot now. I just wanted to look something up just for the hell of it. When the final episode of MASH aired in 1983, Gary, they got 105.9 million people in 2.5 hours. Now that's 40 years ago. That's unheard of now. The Super Bowl doesn't even get that.
Yeah, no. People they'll record it or watch it later, and that skews numbers, or they'll just watch highlights of it, or those old shows where it was the last episode, they always got the huge amount of ratings no matter what. So
like that piss poor Seinfeld finale from '98.
Yeah, there's been some bad finales.
Yeah, most of them are really underwhelming. So I'm not a big Sopranos fan, but I remember watching the last episode of that one, and it was the final scene where it just went black.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you just decide for yourself what you want the ending to be.
It was a choose your own adventure the whole time.
Right. Oh boy. So I think we have a new megastar on the horizon on Raw, Gary, from what I saw last night. And that is one Cholo Dominic Mysterio in his prison outfit.
Dami.
No, prison hardens a man for 14 hours.
I think it's brilliant.
Oh, so do I. He came out looking like Conan.
His work's gotten much better. I wish he would put some muscle on, but he just, because his dad can, his dad got thicker, and Dom can move, he can work. He just needs to get a little bit bigger, and I think he's a solid. If you had like a European Championship belt still, he would be the European champ right now.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
And if you put some size on, because his mic work's gotten a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, he was damn entertaining last night.
And his character's gotten a lot better. Rhea's really helped him with that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, he's just right on the verge. He just needs that look. I think this just to be a little more physically in his physical presence.
Yeah, he now from the looks of it, they've got title shot against the Usos coming up. I don't know if it's going to be on TV or they're saving it for the Rumble, but it's the match. They won tag team turmoil. It started being Priest and Balor as a team. Finn hurt his ribs, so Adam Pearce substituted Dominic in for him, and Priest and Dominic wound up winning the match.
Yeah, they freebirded it.
They freebirded it. Yeah. So I don't know which two of them is going to challenge the Usos, but I mean, Priest and Dominic could be a fun tag team. Just Priest is the heavy, and then Dom Rich just uses Rhea's cheating to help him win, which is aces. Oh, and I don't know if you noticed, Dom does have a teardrop tattoo right there now on his.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. From his 2-hour incarceration.
Yeah. He got arrested because his mother slapped his girlfriend.
Yeah. Poor Buddy Matthews.
Oh, buddy. Yeah. You can't get away from those damn Mysterios. He was stripping the daughter for a little bit on TV, and then his real life ladies with Dominic.
Yeah. I forgot about Leah or Aaliyah.
Aaliyah, yeah. Yeah, then I don't know what they're doing with Buddy in AEW. I'm hoping if what I'm hearing is true, maybe they'll have the House of Black and the Elite have a feud, which would hopefully mean that there might be some one-on-one matches with Omega and Black or Omega and Murphy.
Now, is tomorrow the blow-off for the Best of 7?
Yeah, tomorrow is the ladder match. And, so we should be getting this with the X.
I hope.
You'll be the loudest "I told you so" in the. You will not be. You'll be impossible to live with after on the next episode if that happens.
It'll just be this. This episode was dedicated to the memory of all the marks,
smart and otherwise.
All the rubes. I don't know. It would be the best time for it to happen. I've known Tony to not do things for the best time for it to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they could win it, and then you could have, like, in a few shows, like FTR come out, or not come out, but like you could have a mystery team, and then it would be FTR and Punk.
Right.
Because FTR just lost all their belts.
Yeah, they are now beltless.
They are now beltless. So what better way would it be to get a belt?
Yeah. And I think they're primed for another. I think they're more primed to make a run at the Acclaimed and get those AEW belts back. But I mean, Punk and FTR against the Elite writes itself. Something just popped into my head, Gary. A memory, if you will, if I can be spared an anecdote. The last time WWE was in Champaign, you and I went to the show. It was the night before Hell in a Cell. And, and it was supposed to have Cody against Seth.
Yeah, the 40 seconds of Cody.
Cody got hurt, so it was Seth got put into the 3-way match. And everybody, we heard people complaining that Cody wasn't going to be there. It's like, oh, this is crap. We came to see Cody. Then boom, here comes the music. Out comes Cody, bat out of hell, takes out Seth, and runs to the back with him. He wasn't out. You said he wasn't out there 45 seconds.
No, it wasn't even 45 seconds.
And you were laughing like the kid in the candy store. You thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He fulfilled his contract. Hey, I was paid to.
Well, that it wasn't that like Cody was hurt that made me laugh, because I'd never laugh at that.
No,
because that's just not funny. But what was hilarious was it was, hey Cody, I know you're hurt, and I know you're still gonna work this cage match because you're so hurt that it doesn't matter.
Right.
But we're still going to make you leave your house, get on a plane, fly, pressurize that area of your body, come all the way to Champaign, Illinois for 35 seconds of a ride.
Right. And then drive to Chicago for a pay-per-view.
And then drive to Chicago.
But don't worry, when you get there, we'll have cortisone for you.
Yeah, we'll have an ice pack.
Yeah, they showed that interview with him last night where they were showing highlights of like when he was hurt. He was like shrink wrapped. They put like plastic wrap around his torso to like keep the pressure on it.
Yep.
But we should be getting him back at the Rumble. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. And I don't know. Listening to Busted Open today, Gary, and they seem pretty convinced that it's going to be not The Rock, but Cody facing Roman at Mania.
Man, I want, at this point, I would have Owens and Cody Rhodes and Reigns in a 3-way for all the titles, and then do the same thing, do the falls where it's
the Angle Benoit Jericho finish.
Yeah, and then I'd still have Sammy turn on him and help Owens get the belt, and then you either have Owens versus Reigns after Cody takes a fall, or you have Cody and Reigns, and then you have Cody go over clean, or close as clean as possible. Or you could even if you wanted The Rock, and maybe The Rock's not wanting to actually do a match, he could do, a run-in, or he could be special referee or something. And
see, I kind of think it should be one-on-one. Cody and Roman. The story is there, the Rhodes family and the Anoa'i family, and who's the down, and it's in Cody's music. Wrestling has more than one royal family. He says it before his song kicks in. That's kind of the thesis of the feud if it was to happen. But I don't know. I mean, it's from what it looked like with Theory when it came out, the first thing he said with the microphone was "the champ is here." It makes me think that he's going to get Cena.
Well, I'm sure Cena will be there.
I would imagine, and I'm sure he'd be happy to put Theory over. That match has been rumored for months, ever since like Survivor Series. But they're starting to kind of. I don't know what all the plans are for Mania right now. There's a lot of theories out there that Charlotte's going to wrestle Bianca and unify the women's titles. There's talk about splitting the men's titles. You never know. But it remains to be seen. They're saying now Edge and Balor at the Rumble and Hell in a Cell, maybe.
Well, I mean, they got to do the blow off for that eventually.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't have Beth versus Rhea at Mania,
I figured they'd do a mixed tag at Mania, have Finn and Rhea against Edge and Beth.
Yeah, well, that works too.
But yeah, they got to get Beth back out there, or else she's going to look like a chump.
Yeah, and she can still work, so it's not like
she's still in better shape than most of the women on the roster. Oh, and can we take a second to rejoice, Gary? We haven't talked since a couple of SmackDowns ago when Ronda is no longer the SmackDown Women's Champion.
Yes.
I think our credo was anyone but Ronda. And
And that's what we got.
Yeah, we got Charlotte, and that's still going to piss off a lot of people, but I'm fine with it.
I don't necessarily like the way. I don't like the way they did it.
It was weird how they did it. But yeah, if you got the best, you got to use the best, and for better or worse, Charlotte is the best they've got.
Oh yeah.
Bianca could be, but she still needs some time. Athletically, I think she is, but as far as work and psychology, all that stuff, she has a lot to learn. But let's see, what else could we? So let's put a pin in Vince, figuratively, not literally. So last Wednesday, Gary, we had Wrestle Kingdom, and we kind of discussed a little bit FTR losing the IWGP tag titles. Overall, I thought it was a really good show. They went back to just doing one night. The last couple of years they did two, but they kind of condensed it back down again. But there was some cool stuff in there. Most of the championships changed, but the one thing that bugs me is that they put the damn world title back on Okada again.
I can't stand him. Well, you know my feelings on Okada.
I know your feelings on Okada, and I get that he's their top guy, but I'm just not a fan. I can't get behind Okada.
What's crazy is like their two top guys are Tanahashi and Okada forever, and they're both the least strong style guys they have.
Right.
Like they're more like pro wrestling than just wrestling. Like they're more sports entertainment than any of their other workers, than any of them. And they keep pushing them, and everybody loves them.
Yeah,
and they seem to. But Okada just has never caught my eye. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But
they seem to Impact ruined him for me.
Yeah, they seem to love him. So I mean, I guess you go with what you got. I mean, Japan's always kind of been like that. You always have the one guy that always has the belt.
Inoki back in the day, Fujinami for a long time.
Yeah. Or like Masawa had it constantly, and it's not like they were. Well, some of them weren't bad. Masawa was amazing.
I love Masawa, but you know me, I'm more of a Kobashi guy.
Yeah, but like some of the guys, they were just old and big. That was like the prerequisite to have the title. But I don't know. I don't understand why you put it back on Okada. You have so many different guys.
I think they said the Switchblades deal's coming up.
Oh.
So maybe that's why. Because he dropped the title, then the next day at New Year's Dash, he made a match with Hikuleo, the Tongan's younger brother. And it's stipulation loser leaves Japan, which could go either way, because I've heard that WWE has interest in Hikuleo and Tama Tonga. So I don't know if they're going to go, or this could be Jay White's ticket to the U.S. Maybe he's going to go sign with AEW full time, maybe Impact full time. You never know.
Well, I don't know how much. Like the top guys in New Japan have to probably make enough, right? That Impact isn't going to be their biggest option. Because if they're not making enough for Impact to steal them, then they're in trouble.
All right. Well, I know. Is the Wolfpack coming?
No, there's just an idiot out by the railroad tracks shooting off a gun.
Oh, fun.
So it's making all of the dogs go crazy.
I can see how that would happen. But no, with I know Minoru Suzuki, he has a business on the side along with wrestling. I think he runs a clothing store or something over there.
That's sensible male.
I think that's where they got the really nifty Suzuki-gun tracksuits.
Yeah.
Which I still want one of those, by the way. Someday I'm going to be strolling down Neal Street in Champaign wearing my Suzuki-gun tracksuit and have Kazunina Ray playing on my phone. And nobody will know what the hell I'm doing. No. But no, like I know Tanahashi and Okada, I think they do movies over in Japan too.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
And Naito, I'm not sure what his deal is.
Like Naito's a guy that, man, I would have strapped that whole company to his back.
I think they did it very elegantly.
He's got tons of charisma.
Oh yeah.
He can work different styles, and yeah, he would have been my guy, but they keep going back to Okada.
I like Naito. He's one of those guys. He's kind of got that Steve Austin thing where he can work babyface or heel and not change anything about his style.
Yeah.
But he's always gonna cheat, just be kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy who I kind of want them to strap the rocket to is the guy just won the TV title over there last week, is Zack Sabre Jr. And he's kind of got that mix of, they call it British strong style, which I'm not sure the difference between that and, I think it's more chain wrestling based.
Yeah.
But I've seen him have matches with Ishii and Okada and all those guys and just tear them apart. I mean, he almost ripped Tanahashi's arm off in a match I remember seeing a couple years ago. But he's one of those guys that they could put the world title on him and then he could just challenge anybody. And no matter who it is, if they're a big, strong guy, he just has that wrestling base and he can just submit anybody. And I'm also, I do like British wrestling though, so that's kind of got a soft spot for Zack Sabre Jr. The other big thing from things we got to talk about from Wrestle Kingdom, Gary, Mercedes Moné debuted, former Sasha Banks, and
she looked good. I mean,
the hair was a little weird. I don't know what the deal is with the blue splotches in there. The promo was not great.
I really couldn't hear much of it because I was trying to watch it on YouTube.
And you didn't miss much.
There's a lot of talking over it.
Yeah, it's my buddy Menders, who I do the 0-1 shootout with. She saw it before I did, and she just could not speak more illy of that promo. And then I watched it the next day after she told me about it, and it was awful. Too many money puns, and her finish is sloppy because she hit Kyrie with this gory bomb DDT thing that they just completely botched in the post match on Kyrie's match.
Well, I mean, I'm more upset that she's immediately going after Kyrie because Kyrie is red hot right now.
Yeah.
Like that match she just had, I think we talked about last time, was incredible.
Yeah.
And she's always been an incredible worker. WWE just, like, they let her get hurt. And they let her get, they didn't protect her the way they should have protected her. And when you had Io Sky coming in, you should have had them either wrestle each other, because Lord knows they could have put on a show, or tag, or put them in a faction with Asuka.
I would have much preferred Io and Kyrie as a tag team than Io and Dakota, and I like Dakota.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think the main reason they did it is because they got a show in San Jose coming up, and that's the only match they've announced so far is Kyrie and Sasha. True. I'm sorry, I gotta stop calling her Sasha. That's gonna give me some heat. But so far that's the only match, and I think they're close to a sellout, which says a lot for why they brought her in.
Yeah.
She's probably got the most recognizable name in that company right now outside of Japan.
Yeah.
So, other big occurrence, Machine Gun Carl Anderson defended his title over there on Wednesday and dropped it to Tama, did the honors on the way out. But it was kind of cool because he was wearing the OC gear during the show. He didn't have the Bullet Club stuff on.
Yeah.
Even though he was still representing the Bullet Club. And, just put him over clean. They got on a plane, came back over here, and started working the house show move again. But, it's, I think they said that show they had WWE, AEW, Impact talent all on one card, which I don't think it's really happened since AEW came around. But because you had Omega coming in, you had Anderson coming in. I think you had Leo Rush was on there. So they really unloaded both barrels on that show to get because that was the first show that the fans were allowed to cheer. For a long time they'd only been able to clap their hands. There were COVID protocols, but this Wrestle Kingdom was the first time they were actually allowed to make noise. So I think they wanted to get as much bang for their buck as they could, no pun intended, Young Bucks. But but yeah, so overall, I thought it was a really good show. I enjoyed New Year's Dash the next day. I watched them both back to back. My wife loved that because she was trying to work in the other room, and all she heard was Japanese wrestling in the living room. But yeah, so they're setting up some cool stuff there. They did have Muda's last New Japan match on that show.
See, I watched all the highlights of that. I got to see most of that match. I was much more excited for that than I was for Ospreay versus Omega. But that's just me. I mean, yeah. I'm sure take crap for that, but like, right. But the match with Muda, like Muda's getting old, and like if his knees weren't his knees have been bad since the 90s. Yeah. So I remember there was always a rumor he was retiring because his knees were bad. Mm-hmm. Like they're basically blown completely out. And he's still working, and that's why he's having to stop, is his knees.
Yeah. And so he can't do the moonsault anymore.
But him and Nakamura put on a really, really good match. It wasn't anything super duper fancy. There was, some outside brawling. There was a lot of misfit.
Mm-hmm. Some of that a little awkward to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey.
Yeah, but I did think it was cool that WWE let Nakamura go over and do that.
Yeah, Nakamura's entrance was awesome.
Right. Classic Nakamura, like Japan Nakamura, too.
Yeah. And it was a really good match. It was a really funny interview process because basically it was just Muda saying bye-bye. Literally. It's very good. Bye-bye.
Right.
And then Nakamura spoke for like a half hour. But that was the only thing I liked about what I saw from the Omega and Ospreay match. Like their exit interviews, like Ospreay's was probably the best work he's ever done.
Yeah, it was good.
Like on the mic. It was really good. It was believable. It was convincing. I don't ever think Kenny Omega is going to be good on a microphone. He'll be serviceable, which is why he's got Don.
I was going to say, he's got Don Callis.
And he'll elevate that title for as long as he has it.
Yeah.
But
sounds like he's got Jeff Cobb as his first challenger.
Yeah.
Which I like Jeff Cobb. He's one of those big bruisers that we like,
It would be a shame if somebody came along and screwed that up for
Whatever do you mean?
Oh, they'll have to have him versus Ospreay again.
Oh, there's got to be a rematch at some point.
It seemed like they're going to let it build for like a year. And they gave himself like that year timeline.
Mm-hmm. But I wonder if that was to get him back to the world title. Because remember, he never lost that world title. It was injury. He broke his neck. So then he had to forfeit it. So I don't know. Maybe that's the whole deal. He's going to work his way back up and challenge Okada again.
I don't know, man. Like Ospreay and Omega, like you saw what happened with Omega. How long he was out with how many injuries he had because he just kept working through them and kept doing stupid stuff after stupid stuff.
He worked a pretty smart match on Wrestle Kingdom though, for Omega's scale,
Yeah.
I did enjoy the putting his foot through the table and then doing the Jack Nicholson, like peeking through the hole.
Yeah.
Silly, but overall, and I like Ospreay. Ospreay works a lot smarter now than he did even 2 years ago.
Well, he has to.
I know we've talked before about when he was doing the junior heavyweight stuff, and we thought he's going to kill himself one of these days. Same thing with Kota Ibushi back in the day.
Oh yeah, Ibushi was just doing stupid stuff. Just
He was chasing the pop.
Yeah.
And it was a nice touch where Omega did the Kamigoye, Ibushi's finish during that match too. But I thought they were a good tag team. The unusually named Golden Lovers.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that means. It might be something that got lost in the translation. Maybe it's a really cooler name in Japanese.
Something weird in Japanese. So,
but not one to knock it. That's when Stacy makes fun of me because I was one of I say I want to learn Japanese so I can understand the promos. But they had the little British guy with Kevin Kelly doing the translations during the show, so that helped out. So we talked about FTR losing their titles, and in the last month they lost them all. AAA, Ring of Honor, IWGP, and really, really good match with Goto and Yoshihashi, Wrestle Kingdom. Expect nothing less out of FTR. You know, they're always good.
From what I understand, AAA is like swearing off anybody except for I think they said Omega getting another title, and I guess it was because of Tay and Sammy.
Yeah, there's some heat between AAA and New Japan, but that went back before Tay and Sammy. That's why that Forbidden Door pay-per-view they didn't have hardly anybody from AAA there. It was just FTR defending or not even defending. They just came out with the titles, but Penta and Phoenix weren't allowed to be on the show. Andrade wasn't on the show, and so I think there's some kind of deep-seated heat there that I don't know about. One thing that I will mention, we'll kind of get off of Wrestle Kingdom, Gary, but PWG had the Battle of Los Angeles over the weekend. You know, the big tournament over there, 2 days. And Mike Bailey, Speedball from Impact, won the tournament. But I think the bigger story is that Jericho showed up and had a match in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. It was him and Sammy, Garcia, and then Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange against some of the top guys in PWG in a multi-man match. But it seems like Jericho's kind of living his best life right now in wrestling, because he's basically able to do whatever he wants to, and people will pay him to come to their shows and do the thing, you know. Because I wouldn't have ever pictured him going to PWG, because I mean, I know it's popular, but it still seems like one of the more small-time territories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic with him, because I know he's pretty super conservative in certain things, and then you hear him talk or you watch him do things, and he does things really the right way and other stuff. And so he really, like, in the ring and in life, kind of straddles that line. Like, he's walking that tightrope all the time, and he just seems to do what he wants to do and what he feels like he should do, because he's putting over people that nobody's ever heard of, because he just thinks that they're going to be a star someday.
Yeah.
And he's going to PWG, and for no other reason, and he knows he's coming to the end of his career, but he's smart enough to realize that he can remake himself as many times as he needs to, and that on the way there he can keep people coming up. And anybody who says that he's somehow dragging that company down, they're idiots.
Yeah, not a chance.
They can write in, they can say whatever they want. Like,
I mean, look at all the people he's elevated in AEW since he, like, not just Sammy, you know, then Garcia, this kid Action Andretti, who I'd never heard of before he pinned him on TV. Then he took a loss from Starks, I think, right? Last year. And he'll get his wins easy enough, but he's Teflon. He can do whatever he wants in that company, and he's not going to get hurt by losses or getting kicked into a big tub of champagne and orange juice, or, you know, any of that stuff, or wearing sparkly outfits that look ridiculous. But I mean, shit, Jake Hager got a purple hat over, and nobody would have thought that'd happen. He looks ridiculous. But no, there's a lot of A+ talent in AEW that it seems like if it wasn't for Jericho, they wouldn't quite be on that level yet.
Oh, without Jericho, that whole company would have lasted about a year. it would have never got the TV deal. This is something else anybody can yell or scream about, that it's the absolute God's honest truth. Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, all those other people they had there, not going to carry that company for this long.
No.
You had to have Jericho do what he did.
Gotta have Moxley.
And you had Moxley come in and be a completely different John Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
Be basically just this guy that just goes out and beats people up. It was a different look. But you had Jericho there to be his foil.
Yeah.
Two guys that knew how to work a mic, knew how to work a program. And without Jericho, they're not getting through to the pandemic. And Jericho flew people in his private plane. He did all kinds of stuff during that time to get them shows. And like, as far as I know, like, that's how like Brody's wife and his kid were getting back and forth a lot of times to the hospital.
I think he had a lot to do with that, and Tony did also, I'm sure.
But it's just like, that guy put that whole company on his back. And then when it was time to drop the title, he dropped the title and moved on. And then he went on to put over Orange Cassidy, who at the time people were still considering a joke. And you see how far he's come after that.
Yeah.
Up to like this last week, I think it was on Battle of the Belts.
Yeah.
He had a really, really good match with Kip Sabian. And there was
good though.
And it was a completely different side of him. They finally let him kind of be mad.
Yeah.
And like him, I really enjoyed the story they were telling with Kip being like more of the orange type and just doing the little kicks and punches and
trying to get under his skin.
And he did. And but that took somebody like Jericho giving Cassidy legitimacy. That you could do that later, because if he would have just been Orange Cassidy like he was when he showed up, that barely did anything, he would have never gotten to this point. Jericho drew that out of him, forced that match to happen, made himself look like an idiot because he knew he was going to make a star.
Yeah, it's the booker in me, what I want to see happen, and I don't know if it ever will. But with Jericho, and he can have an entertaining feud with anybody, even like everybody did that song and dance number with MJF, which I thought was ridiculous, but still mildly entertaining. I want to see Jericho in a long run with Danhausen. Even if they only wrestle like twice, just the promos back and forth will be gold.
Yeah.
And but I love my Danhausen. I got my Danhausen. I was really surprised to hear Danhausen is the 2022 #1 seller on PWTs, ahead of even Punk and anybody else in AEW. Moxley, all those guys. And Danhausen, Danhausen grinds, man. Even not on the show, if you go to his YouTube channel, he's always doing stuff. He's always get his face out there, and I think that's how we got over during the pandemic. Is just a lot of people were kind of sitting on their thumbs trying to figure out what to do next. Danhausen was making content, and it helped him pay the bills, and that's how I really got to be familiar with Danhausen, was when he was on Conan's podcast. And then after that, I went back and I watched some of the Ring of Honor stuff, because I'd seen him before, but it was always during, like, when my band was playing, and then they'd have Ring of Honor on mute above the bar. So I just see this skinny dude with tattoos and his face painted carrying a jar of teeth, and I was like, that's stupid as hell. Then I listened to him do interviews later on. I was like, oh shit, this guy's onto something.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just, I can't get enough. He's my favorite guy in AEW right now. Except maybe Eddie Kingston might have him beat there. But my brother, he's on the ball. He just texted me, hey, Stephanie just resigned. Like, yeah, we brought it up. It's always good to get help from the family. But yeah, he had some fun with us a couple episodes ago. We were doing our year in review, and so he always sends his regards. We're gonna get him on sometime once again. And let me see there we go. Oh, I hear a door. I think the wife is home. Yep. All right. So I think we have covered all. There's something else I wanted to mention to you, Gary, and I know you might get grumpy about this. How do you feel about Darby Allin beating Samoa Joe for the TNT Championship? I did not like it.
I didn't like when they did it. I didn't mind him doing it, but I don't understand having the angle with Wardlow and then having basically 2 weeks later him dropping the belt to Darby Allin.
I think the reason they did it is because it's in Seattle and that's his hometown. But that seems like kind of a dumb reason to do a switch.
I mean, I would have at least had Wardlow come out and cost him the match, but instead they dropped it like clean to Darby.
That's cool, yeah. And
like I would have had not cost him the match, but I would have had Joe like go to hit him with the chair and get stopped or something.
Right.
By Wardlow.
Yeah.
You don't have to have him hit him or anything. It's just keep him from being a heel.
Right.
So, but yeah, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, it's at the risk of sounding too much like Jim Cornette. I can't buy Darby Allin beating Samoa Joe clean in the middle of the ring.
No, I can't buy Darby Allin beating anybody super clean. Like it's mostly because he is so absolutely like bent on destroying his body.
Yeah.
That as much damage as he does to himself on purpose in a match, it would be hard for him to still have enough anything left to pin somebody that big.
He throws himself off of everything, through everything. It's just I've never been a big Darby fan. I know our buddy Narge is a big Darby fan. I was actually half expecting Sting to turn on him after that match was over. When Darby was celebrating.
I thought they should have turned Darby heel.
No, they got to turn Sting heel on Darby. Nobody's gonna see it coming.
Yeah.
Make him the bitter old man, you know.
Yeah. Bitter old Sting.
So something popped into my head talking about Moxley and everything he's on. He kind of reminds me of like AEW's version of Brody, but not the tall, hairy guy. Just kind of he just runs through the crowd and
just hussing everywhere.
And, what?
Just hussing everywhere.
yeah, put the hand out, going berserk, as it were. But there will only be one Brody. I think we'll agree on that. So.
Yeah, it's probably good.
I don't know. Brody Lee could have pulled off the Brody thing. He kind of was doing that when he was doing the trucker gimmick on the Indies.
Yeah.
But not with the furry boots, and he was able to speak articulately. But that's not true. Brody could too. He was the intelligent monster for a reason. So that was unfair of me, and I apologize to his estate. I think we can move on, Gary. It's we're rolling along. If you can hear me all right with your infected ear and whatnot, I'm sure you'll come on next episode with a deviated septum of some sort, and
yeah,
have your head wrapped up Spirit of '76 style. We're gonna start running the contest for every episode. What's going to be wrong with Gary? And people just guess different medical problems.
Yeah.
Oh, light, not serious. Like we're not going to say you're having a heart transplant or something. But
yeah.
Let's see here. Well, it can't be any worse than my cat. We thought we broke her foot this weekend, but she seems like she's all right. She was milking it a little bit for a couple days.
What'd she do? Just fell?
Well, Stacy stepped on her foot on accident when she was walking. You know, the cat likes to get underfoot. And then she was limping around for a couple of days, but I think she's all right. She Seems like she's about back to normal. Gary, we have digressed into pet talk, and we need to stop that because that's not why our listeners are listening to this episode, is to hear about our pets. Although they do hear your pets.
Yeah.
More like millions.
The millions and the millions.
All right, Gary, what do you say we go to the Hall of Fame segment here? We got to now. I put it out there this week for our listeners if they have somebody that they want to nominate to give us their ideas. We got some good ones, but I already had this week's choice pick before everybody put their votes in, so those will start getting counted on the next episode. But it's kind of an easy one. Like I said, it's always, most of them are no-brainers, but considering he just had a match on Wednesday, our latest inductee, Gary, is boom, Keiji Muto, the great Muta. He's the guy that got me into Japanese wrestling back when I was 8 years old in WCW. When Gary Hart brought him in.
Did I send you I found after that match, I was looking around, and there was this British dude that broke down the entire history of the Mist.
No, you don't think you that.
It's on YouTube. And like the first guy who did it was like Kabuki, but he did it down in Texas. It was Gary Hart, and it was like Listerine and food coloring in a condom.
In a condom?
In like the tip of a condom. They would cut like the condom tip, and then they would tie it, and then they would just put it in his mouth, and they would pop that. And that's how they got the Mist.
They were able to, okay, that makes sense.
So I don't know if that's still. I don't know if that's still the preferred way to do it, but I know that.
I don't know.
But he took it all the way from there. But yeah, it started in America, down in Texas. Then they gave it to Muta because they were wanting to make him a face. And at that time, like that's how they were doing it. And it's just, but now it's become. He just took it to a completely different level because like Muta, man, that guy is so good.
Yeah.
Like he was insanely good. Like his character wasn't fantastic. The older he got, like he got bulkier, but he changed. Like his style and the new masks he wears are just insanely awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was doing things just. It wasn't even that he would like he'd do the moonsault, but like just the way he would move around the ring, and then of course Tajiri pretty much stole that entire gimmick, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah, and they gave it to Asuka.
Yeah, and they gave it to Asuka.
Yeah. Now, remind me, you might know this better than me. When Muta first came around, did Gary Hart try to pass him off as Kabuki's son?
If I remember that video right, I want to say yeah, because that wasn't even the original. It wasn't even as the crazy thing is the Kabuki they had wasn't even the original Kabuki. It was like there was a Kabuki in Japan, and then the Kabuki in America was just they just stole the gimmick basically. Because who was going to stop them?
Now I know they did that with Kendo Nagasaki too. There was a British guy doing the gimmick in Europe, and then there was the Japanese guy they brought over to Mid-South.
Yeah, because like Gary Hart basically said, if you don't see me with him, it's probably just some other person wearing makeup or a mask. And it was whatever nationality they needed that guy to be. So
give me a grade, Gary. Muta in the NWO, thumbs up or thumbs down?
It really didn't matter. So like thumbs down.
Everybody was in there. I think he was in there solely to do it in New Japan. Him and Chono.
Yeah.
In Norton. But yeah, they bring him over. They had him and Chono job out to the Steiner brothers every time they were trying to chase the outsiders. And the best thing that ever happened with Muda in the NWO was when he missed in Sonny Ono. Because Chono had joined the NWO, and then Sonny brought Muda in to wrestle Chono and get payback. And then Muda just turned around and blew mist in Sonny's face, and Sonny sold it like a champ. Because Sonny's awesome. They invented the selfie after all. All right. So yeah, Muda, I thought I had to put Muda in. Narj will be happy with this because he loves Muda. But he, like I said, he's the guy that got me interested in Japanese wrestling just from watching him with Sting in Japan in WCW back in the day, and then that moved on to getting me into Chono and then Hashimoto, all those New Japan guys.
Yeah, Muda was up there. I mean, my guy probably was Ultimo Dragon, then Liger, then Muda.
I do love Dragon.
And then once I got further in, it was Misawa and all those guys, and then Hansen, and at the time I was watching Dragon's Gate and with all those crazy guys, and so it was but man, like during that time it was really a great mixture of guys who could still sell but do high spots.
Yeah, Muda was really the whole package because he wasn't a small guy, but his posture always made him seem like he was small. But he could throw heavyweights and then go do a moonsault and all that stuff. I don't know. I think a future induction might have to be the collective Four Pillars of Heaven from Noah in All Japan. It was Kobashi, Misawa, Taue, and Kawada. And I think if they go in, they're going to have to go in as a group. But I know how much you love Kawada with just kicking the shit out of people. One of the greatest memes anybody ever sent me. You sent me a picture. It was after Kanye showed his ass at the Emmys or whatever the award show was. And you sent me a meme that somebody had made, and it was somebody had pasted Kanye's face on somebody. I don't know who it was.
It was the only meme I've ever made.
Oh, you made that? Okay. But it was Kanye on somebody's head, and then Kawada just kicking his face off. Just good stuff. Because I think we've all wanted to do that to Kanye in some form or fashion. But I saw, and Taichi, from Japan, from New Japan. He was Kawada's young boy back in, I think it was in Noah. And I saw footage one time of Kawada getting ready for a match, like in the locker room, and Taichi's holding his robe or towel or whatever. And Kawada just like motions him, like, get over here. And he puts the thing down, comes over, puts his hands behind his back, and then Kawada just throws a kick right to his solar plexus, just to warm up. So Taichi was his punching bag. I'm like, man, they wouldn't pay me enough to just take a kick from Kawada for stretching, just to warm up.
Yeah. No, he kicked real hard.
Yes. It seems like everybody in that group had one thing they did really, really well. Kawada had the kicks, Misawa did the forearms and the rolling elbow and all that. Kobashi was the chops. And Taue was kind of like the all-around technical wrestler out of the group, Well,
and then you had Akiyama through. Akiyama had the exploders.
Oh yeah, Takayama. Who I think Suzuki is still raising money for him, because he's been having health problems.
Oh, is he?
And I forget what the exact nature of it was, but Suzuki has been doing fundraisers for years in Japan to help him pay his medical costs, which is it's cool, but you wouldn't picture that from Suzuki because he's, for all intents and purposes, evil.
Yeah. Yes.
But also one of my favorite wrestlers. Though he's one of my favorite guys in New Japan.
Oh, he might be the greatest heel in wrestling.
Yeah, because he does it with a smile on his face. And you know what they say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, Gary.
Yeah.
But he's got the
Yeah.
whole deal. He's got the awesome music. He's got the tracksuits, which I've already discussed how much I want one of those Suzuki-gun tracksuits. But they're going to be collector's items now because Suzuki-gun's done. They're not a group anymore.
Really?
They disbanded the faction. I mean, there's still like subgroups that are like, I think Suzuki and Desperado are going for the tag titles at some point. Uh, Sabre Jr.'s out altogether. He's with TMDK now. Uh, and then, yeah, like there's a group, they announced it at New Year's Dash. Taka Michinoku, Taichi, Kanemaru, and Doki. It's four of the guys from Suzuki. And their group is just called Just Four Guys because they couldn't think of a name. But Taka's the mouthpiece. Which.
Yeah. Surprised Taka's been let back into the business over there.
Yeah, he doesn't wrestle a lot anymore, but he's a name, so they keep him on.
He got caught cheating on his wife.
That was Taichi.
Oh, Taka did too.
Oh, Taka did also. Man, those Suzuki guys are real bastards.
So that's very much looked down upon.
Yeah, people get like fired from companies for that.
Yeah.
I think Taichi actually did. I think he got. I don't think it was. I think it might have been Noah. Might have like booted him when he did that. I don't know if he cheated with Miho Abe, but I don't know. Also, I don't know if you noticed it's not Dick Togo from Kayatai who's in New Japan. He's Evil's mouthpiece in Bold Club. So I'm just waiting for somebody who needs to snap up Min's Teo and Funaki over there and get all the Kayatai guys together.
Funaki somehow managed to make it in WWE forever and just never left. Apparently he does something.
He says yes to everything. He's like isn't he like the go-between with the Japanese talent and
probably
maybe doing. I think he still does Japanese commentary.
He's a huge Packers fan.
Oh, that's too bad. He's going to have a lot of free time in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Few things make me happier than the misery of Packers fans and their quarterback. Oh, grumpy Aaron. So, Gary, do you want to get into our top 10 list?
Sure.
We're making really good time. It's Top 10 Tuesday, and we're going to give us plenty of time to talk about this because, why not?
It's good to try to. It's good to try to squeak us in under 2 hours.
Yeah, that's ideally the preferred time. But so we were talking about strong style stuff, and we mentioned Kobashi a little bit. But our subject today, Gary, is greatest choppers in wrestling. Whether it's overhand chops or knife edge, whatever. So I got my list of the 10 best. And we're going to start at number 10 because you have to start at number 10. Bob Holly. There's nothing he liked more than chopping rookies.
Didn't like selling.
No. I remember the Royal Rumble, I think it was 05, and I'm sorry for the visual of Rico's ass in the corner in this picture. I've tried to find pictures of the guys actually doing chops. But the 2005 Rumble, it was Bob Holly, Benoit, and Eddie Guerrero just chopping the shit out of Daniel Puder because I think he ran his mouth a little bit backstage. So
after the whole thing with Angle, where he tried to shoot on Angle and put him in a key lock in a wrestling match.
Almost dislocated his elbow. So, they spent about 3 minutes just beating the piss out of him in the ring there. I think that was the receipt. But yeah, Bob, he always did good chops. They always sounded good, which is really the most important thing about a chop is if they sound good.
Yeah.
Because I know you were with me at the 01 show when Camaro Jackson was chopping somebody. I forget who it was. And it was just, the sound was echoing off of the walls. And it sounded painful.
Yeah.
Which is it's all you can expect out of a good chop. And Camaro throws a hell of a chop. But he's one of my honorable mentions. Also, I didn't put Roderick Strong on this list, even though he probably has the hardest chops in the business outside of these 10 guys. And yeah. So and then Hogan, that's all he ever did was chop and eye rake and back rake and cheat. So he's an honorable mention. Number 9, got Samoa Joe. Pretty much the closest thing that the U.S. had to a Japanese strong style guy for a few years in the mid 2000s. And yeah, this photo here, I've got him chopping Kobashi. This is from the match in Ring of Honor, which is the first time I'd seen Kobashi. The first time I really got to see Joe, because I didn't watch a lot of Impact until about the end of 05. And that match, they were just chopping the hell out of each other in the hamburger meat. And I don't know, you might see another picture from this match later on in the countdown. But yeah, Joe, he's one of those guys, he just likes beating up people.
Yeah.
He'd chop you in the back, chop you in the chest, chop you in the face. It's yeah, it's one of those guys. I love watching Joe because he would do the strikes, he would do the submissions. He could do everything, and he didn't look like an X Division guy, you know, being 280 some pounds, but he could fly around as well as anybody.
The only reason I didn't like Joe more until later on was just, it was the same reason that I had issues with Taz. Like Taz, human suplex machine, Joe threw you all over the place, chopped you, kicked you, and then finished you with a sleeper hold.
Well, I don't know.
And it never made any sense to me. It should have been a strike, or it should have been like the muscle buster, and Taz should have had a suplex that he used to put somebody away. Like, I didn't ever understand a Taz mission being his finish. It never made any sense.
Especially since he always had to go up to put it on because everybody was taller than him, and he never had any.
Oh yeah, it never looked like it did anything. Like, there was no way you couldn't get out of that. No, you couldn't lock anything.
No, give Tez that cow catcher suplex, that head and arm suplex, or the T-bone. And
yeah,
shit, he wouldn't have to finish every match with the same suplex. He could just do any of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I know they wanted to give Joe that MMA style, so they gave him the choke. But yeah, the muscle buster was enough for a finish. But yeah, before he got to the muscle buster, he would chop the shit out of you. Number 8, and this is more of the overhand chop variety, Gary. Hit the Big Show. I think I found the perfect thumbnail picture there, just caving in. I think that's Angel Garza's chest there. But yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, his hand is the size of a frying pan, and all the chops sounded like they hurt like a motherfucker.
Oh, I imagine he did. Probably felt like your chest was caving in.
And he seemed like he really enjoyed doing it too. He'd shush the crowd so you'd really hear it. And I got to imagine that then they get to the back and whoever he's in the ring is like, "What the hell, man? Are you serious?" I heard a story once, kind of a tangent, but I'll try to keep it short. CM Punk told a story about working Raven in Ring of Honor, and when they were going over the match, Punk was suggesting chops, and I guess Raven put the kibosh on it because he hated being chopped. So he told Punk, "Yeah, we're not going to do that. You know, they suck. You're not good at it, so we're not going to do any chops, okay? Just put his foot down. No chops."
Which is probably exactly it. Yeah, no.
Yeah. That was in a shoot interview that Punk did for RF Video. This is before he was in WWE. And yeah, he did a pretty spot on Raven impression, telling that anecdote.
Old Scotty the Body.
Scotty Flamingo. They missed an opportunity. Should have gone with Scotty Flamingo, made him a dancer. You know.
Him and his short foot.
The gout. I remember that. I think they said he had the gout.
He has like one leg shorter than the other, I think.
So, yeah, that's why he had the extra sole in his boot, so it would be even. But I can empathize. I got one arm shorter than the other, so, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So apologies to Big Show for not spending more time on him, but he seemed pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Big hand, crowd hurt like a motherfucker. Number 7, we usually don't bring this guy up, but for this list, got to bring up Benoit.
Oh yeah.
If not for the time that he chopped William Regal in the face, because I guess he got a little bit out of control. He was doing the series in the corner that I think Regal flinched.
Yeah.
Kind of right across the nose. But he was kind of that, he ran with flair enough. I guess he's picked up the chops.
Old Benoit.
Benoit indeed. Fun to watch, but in hindsight, some of the shit he did, especially the German suplexes, I can't watch because it was always the guys would land on his head. You mentioned it to me too.
Yeah. Well, he was too short. Like he couldn't get out of the way.
Yeah.
And so every time I see somebody doing rolling Germans, I'm like, man, it's great that you're getting your head out of the way most of the time, but you're still jacking yourself up. And you should, if there's anything that Benoit should be, it should be an object lesson. Hey, why are people still doing stuff that he was doing? You still see people do flying headbutts every once in a while.
Danielson.
Yeah, well, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't even learned from his own times. And don't get me, it's his body, but man, dude.
Angle, same deal. I mean, for the most part, he was able to get his head out of the way, but he'd still get caught every now and then.
Yeah.
That's where Eddie had it right. Eddie did the vertical, so he had the right idea. Still make it look cool, but not so much of the peril. Awkward silence. All right, so yeah, Benoit 7. He probably could have been higher on the list, but I didn't want him to be. I had better people. Number 6, got the man. You got the first inductee in our Hall of Fame, Andre the Giant. Again, same idea with the Big Show, giant hand. Hogan gave him a nice big target in that picture, but Andre was pretty happy to just chop people, especially later on when he wasn't moving around as much. It was all chops and headbutts for about 5 years.
Yeah, well, that would probably actually be enough.
Yeah, well, when your head is the size of a sedan in your hand, again, you got the frying pan hands, so that's going to get the job done. And then, the coup de grace, sit on him.
Yeah.
Poor Bad News Brown. Did you ever read the story about Bad News getting, what?
Possibly getting pooped on a little bit?
Yeah. I read the French writer wrote a book about Andre about a couple years ago, and I read it, and they go into that story about when the defecation may or may not have happened. But yeah, I can think of a few things I would like to happen more than, or less, I should say, than having Andre poop on you. Because he liked healthy portions. We'll just leave it at that. And on that note, let's move on to number 5, shall we? I think too nice of a guy to chop as hard as he did Gary at the Dragon, Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
I loved when he would be in the ring with Flair and they would go back and forth. And because not only would Steamboat throw awesome chops, he would sell for chops like nobody. You would think he got shot in the chest and he'd seize up for a second and then turn around and just lay one in on Flair, for example.
But still smart enough not to chop Flair one more time.
Oh, you mean not doing the last match?
Yeah, because he was smart enough not to.
Yeah,
because he didn't want to be the guy who killed Ric Flair.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this kid DeMar Hamlin from Buffalo, and they think he went into cardiac arrest. I think it's something similar to what happened to Jerry Lawler back when he had his heart attack. Took a repeated elbow from Ziggler, and then that I could very easily see that happening to Flair if he was in the ring with Steamboat. at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Or Big Show. Any of these guys on the list would conceivably kill Flair if they chopped him one too many times.
Yeah.
But also on the Damar Hamlin thing, kudos to Chris Jericho for donating $10,000 to his toy drive. We went halvesies on that. I couldn't, so I sent him a letter asking to put some in for me.
Yeah.
But I'm kidding. If I had it to give, I would, but I send my good wishes instead. Hopefully the kid will kick out of it and he'll be all right. All right, tangent over. Let's go to number 4, Gerald, and then this might get me some heat. Boom. I got Flair number 4. Which should say a lot about the guys.
Like, he threw a lot of chops, but they weren't all great. I mean, especially like further his career went along, he just threw more and more chops, and they weren't all home runs. So to me, a chop needs to be
out of there.
To me, a chop needs to be impactful. Like if it's just, I'm guessing, I'm hoping if Flair's not one, the guy I'm hoping for like is my definition of chopper, and he would make every one of them count.
I'm thinking I might have that figured out.
If he once turned Ernest Miller into a pound of ground beef.
Oh, I might not have him on the list.
No.
Well, don't tell me yet. We'll see. But yeah, so I got Flair number 4. I'm sure Dwayne's gonna lose his mind, saying, "Oh, he should be number 1." But you talked about how chops should be impactful, Gary. So my number 3, Walter.
Yeah.
Anybody does impact on his chops. You can see Dragunov is ready to soil himself in this picture on the approach. And it's literally like you would see guys get like 3 or 4 shots in on Volter or Gunther, depending on which era you like. Then they'd hit the ropes to come for the big shot, and then he'd just chop them down. Just one shot and knock them on their ass. And you don't get that very much anymore.
No.
It's I mean, you could get it from Shibata, Suzuki probably, but
yeah.
And I do love me Shibata. I was pissed when he lost to Cassidy on TV. But
yeah,
no, I think Volter's got the best chops in wrestling presently, and I don't think a lot of people will argue with me on that. But yeah, just from when I remember a match he had in, I think it was Progress or Rev Pro, one of those British promotions a few years ago against Ishii, and they were just knocking the fire out of each other. Just Ishii's throwing the forearms, Volter's throwing the chops, just knocking the piss out of each other. I know I couldn't get enough. It was great. But I know you and I are both Ishii fans, so the old Stone Pitbull built like a fire hydrant. And huge head, too. He's one of the guys who's the headbutter.
More medical tape than man at this point.
Yeah, I heard he's got that elbow brace on. The army he throws the forearms with. I heard that he tightens that to the point where he gets no circulation in his arm just so he can throw harder shots and not feel it, which is insane to me. That just seems like a bad idea. That's like Cabana with the compression socks.
Oh. Yeah.
All right. So Volter, I got number 3. Number 2, and we talked about him earlier. You got Kobashi.
Yeah.
And I picked this picture specifically just because you can see the sweat flying off of Joe's torso. And yeah, it's, like I said.
Well, I mean, on top of the chops, he also had the knife edge, literal knife edges to the neck, like the rapid fire ones.
Oh yeah.
So
and then he'd do the thing where he would just throw random, he would just chop you down. He would like chop you until you hit a knee, then he'd do the double chop to the neck, do the spinning like reverse chops. He had like more variations of chops than anybody I think I've ever seen. and they all look awesome. But just for a simple knife edge, I mean, just watch that match. If anybody hasn't seen that match with Kobashi and Samoa Joe from Ring of Honor, I encourage you to do it. It's on YouTube. And yeah, you want to see two big guys just knocking the piss out of each other. That's the way to go. If you don't want to,
Kobashi was kind of like the convenience store of Japanese wrestlers, though. Like, he did a little bit of everything.
How dare you?
Because Kobashi did a moonsault, right?
I think early on, I don't think he did it for
and then
long.
he used a power bomb for a finisher for a while. And then he went to a big lariat. Then he had the orange crush, and then he had the burning hammer, and then he would chop, and then he had the half and half German,
right?
Or the single arm German.
Yeah, half Nelson suplex.
Yeah, half Nelson suplex. So like, he was really like
he was a Swiss Army knife.
He was a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, he could do a little bit of everything. And then I think he used a stretch plum, didn't he?
I think so, yeah. Now, to be fair, he only used that burning hammer when he really needed it. I think he only used it like 7 times in his whole career. And I know we always enjoyed hearing the Japanese announcers call the burning hammer. Just
burning hammer. Well, that's because they said it in English, along with power bomb.
I think they did.
Yeah, I don't know how those never translated to Japanese.
Yeah, I know. Oh, but I love Kobashi. He's, like I said, he's my favorite Japanese wrestler. So I had to put him at number 2 in favor of our number 1. I think the only guy I know that used a chop as a finish, the Big Chief, Wahoo Daniel. So you got to tell me, who were you thinking, Gary?
Oh, Scott Norton.
Oh, Norton. I didn't think him more as I know he threw a hell of a chop, but I had him more as a power guy.
Well, I mean, he would just, near the end of that run in WCW, like, there was a few matches he had with Ernest Miller, and Ernest Miller was bleeding. Like, his chest was just that raw. And like, he just, somebody should have. But yeah, Wahoo. That was a big, tough dude.
Yeah. Great football player. Then, yeah, he was one of those guys that when he would throw chops, they would echo. And he would literally get a pin out of that. He would whip a guy in the ropes, then they'd come off, hit a chop, and then he'd pin him. Which says a lot about wrestling back in the 70s and 80s. That anything could be a finish. God forbid a DDT be a finish these days, but I'm digressing.
Or a pile driver.
A pile driver, yeah. Bully Ray is the only guy really that does pile drivers anymore, and I think that is his finish. But Bully Ray is also a smart man. Bully's also a guy that throws a hell of a chop, by the way. I could have easily put him on the list here. But yeah, Wahoo, just when he would, especially when he was in the ring with Flair back in the early 80s. And then I've only seen like one match between the two, but I need to find more of Wahoo and Brody together. Just because, I mean, everybody knows I love a good house fight, and that's the mother of all house fights, Wahoo and Brody. Maybe Wahoo and Hanson might trump it.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Indians, it's a feud as old as the United States.
Tale as old as time.
Uh-huh. You know what? I'm also gonna kick myself. Bad disguises on the top 10 last week. I forgot Red River Jack. You remember that? Bruiser Brody under the mask?
Oh yeah. Kind of hard to hide all that.
Yeah, a lot of hair, but yeah, he would. If he was gone somewhere, he would come back as Red River Jack. And yeah, this is ridiculous. Everybody knew it was him. It was like, how do you hide Brody?
You don't.
No. So, unsurprisingly, we finished our top 10 Tuesday with a tangent. Just flying off the rails once again. But yeah, Wahoo for me was number 1. all these guys, I wouldn't pay to get chopped by any of them.
No.
So
well, we honorable mention probably should have been actually thinking about it because of like the people who would line up just to get a job. Should have been for, and I can't think of his name. He just passed away not too long ago.
Inoki. Talking about the honor slap.
Oh yeah, that's right. But it was a slap. It wasn't his chop.
Either way, I mean, number one, it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to watch. But number two, I mean, I respect the hell out of Inoki. I would not stay in that line. No. I can think of better things to do than be slapped by that man.
Well, I mean, because by the end, his hand's either so numb he can't feel it, or he's tired. You'll have to kind of take the risk.
Right.
So you don't know exactly where to stand.
I wouldn't be surprised if his hand was completely calcified over 30 years of throwing chops and things, and it's like getting hit with a brick, you know?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and he has no sympathy for people that don't have a giant square head that can take that kind of a shot. But I say that with reverence, you know, R.I.P. Inoki, you know, a lot of respect. And they dedicated Wrestle Kingdom to Inoki. It was kind of, they had a Inoki tribute match, Suzuki, Tiger Mask, and Fujinami against Nagata, Kojima, and shit, I can't remember the third guy on his team. But I thought I'd get your attention with Kojima, because I know you're a big fan of Kojima.
Yeah.
His big cozy lariat, you know, and his bread.
Nagata in Japan was such a different beast than he was in America. Like, the dude was tough.
It's going to bug me that I can't think of who that guy was that was on their team. It was Nagata and shit. I can't remember. I'm going to try to figure it out, and if I can think of it, I'll put it on our socials because I want to make sure I give proper credit. Gary, before we say goodbye, we got to pay some bills. ProWrestlingTees.com/JTR Pod, where you can get all of your Jumping the Rail merchandise, which is just t-shirts. I asked. I can't do like any other stuff on there. But I'm working on like maybe a side hustle to get some like hoodies and stuff like that out there if anybody's interested. There we go. We got some of our new ones. Hoss Fights Draw Money and Blood Equals Money. Those have been there for a bit. 2 new ones up here. Keep Calm and Kayfabe on the right. And then on the left, I Do Not Like Lazy Booking. My buddy Menders, I think, has already ordered that one. I think she might have ordered both of these. But good words to live by. There's more stuff coming. For those that don't know, I do host the 01 Shootout every other week also, and I'm working on getting some stuff up for that show also. So we'll see if I can get that stuff approved. And so go check it out. Like I said, any little bit helps. Let's keep the lights on, keep the microphones going, keep the stream vibrant. I guess is the right word. It sounded good. But yeah, so I said ProWrestlingTees.com. You can check us out on Twitter at JTR Pod, and Instagram at Jumping the Rail. Our Facebook page is Jumping the Rail. If you want our YouTube channel, you're on it, you're looking at it. And so in 2 weeks, Gary, we're going to actually work on doing something we've been talking about, which is like a salute to Chicago independent wrestling. And hopefully in the next episode or 2, we can make that happen. So everybody should keep an eye out for that. And then we'll be coming up on WrestleMania season, so we'll have some fun with that. Maybe do a live kickoff show for WrestleMania or something like we did last year. You got anything else you want to add, Gary?
Nope.
All right.
I think we covered everything.
I think we have, and we did it in an hour 40, which is, I think, a record for us.
Yep.
But I'll let you go and oint your ear as you need to. Tell the guy outside to stop shooting his guns and scaring your dogs.
Yeah.
And let's see, before we go, I'll make sure I got my credits brought up. There we go. So, all right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to call this a show. So for Gary, this is Reb, and I'm going to remind everybody, life is hard and work stiff. It's on a t-shirt. You can get it at PWTs. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.